So thank you very much for participating in this seminar, and let us hope that at the end of the session we have something very useful to take away with us. I'd like to begin with a little story. There was a room with 4 candles burning, and they were having a conversation with each other. The candle, which was known as trust, said to the other candle that, in this family, there is absolutely no trust. Father doesn't trust the son, mother doesn't trust the wife, husband doesn't trust the wife, and so there is no point in me keeping it going. So I'm going to now shut myself off as giving light to this family. So it shuts itself off, giving light to the family. Peace, which was the other candle, said, I don't think this family appreciate what peace is. There's always jagada here. You know what jagada sometimes I say? Jagada means conflict. So I'm also going to resign myself and burn myself out. I don't think they see the need for peace in this family. Then there was this candle by the name of love. And he said that, or it said, that this family doesn't have love anymore. Husband doesn't love the wife, mother doesn't love the father, children, brother doesn't love sister. No point in me burning in this house. So, the light went to us. At that time, a young child from the family enters the room and starts to cry because it doesn't have trust anymore in the family, it doesn't have peace anymore in the family, and it doesn't have love in the home anymore. She starts to cry. But the 4th candle says to the child, don't cry. I am hope. You pick me up and will bring the trust back to the family, love back to the family, and peace back to the family. Love, peace, trust, and hope. These are the 4 very intrinsic values in the family. Whose responsibility is it to give those values to the children? Is it the madrasas? Is it the communities? Or is it the families? How many of you think it is families? How many of you think it's community? And how many of you think it is madrasa? No, family's responsibility, first and foremost, to impart this knowledge. As far as how we impart the knowledge is very important for all of us to understand. And I just want to briefly talk about what education means. How do we understand education today? What do we mean by education? Have we understood what education is? I think sometimes we have lost the meaning of education. It cannot be that there is an empty basket and we are filling that empty basket with lots of information, lot of data. That is not the role of education. The role of education is to bring out. That's what it means, educa, a Latin word which means to bring out from a child whatever potential the child has. So how do we bring out the potential from the child? Just think about an apple seed. If you crush it, if you break it, what do you see? Do you see anything? Nothing, really. If you bite it, written. But when you put it on the ground, the whole tree emerges out of the leaves. And imagine, one tree will give so many apples. And for 50 years it will be giving apples. So the whole role of a madrasa teacher and the parents is not to make an apple, but to grow a tree. It's like a gardener who very, very nicely nurtures the seed, protects it, and out of that grows a huge tree with lots of apples. So with that preamble, I want to now go into the subject matter. which is to talk about actually family life. But Zuhair has given a very good indication of what Awakening Project is all about. What I'm trying to do is to look at the three enduring institutions of our community: family, madrasa, and mimbar. These are the core foundations of our community. You remove them, our community disappears. But what is the role of these three institutions today? We need to microscope these three institutions. In view of the fact that there are so many challenges, and we have to ask ourselves, are our institutions, family, madrasa, mimbar, are they equipped to overcome the challenges of our time? And if they are not, why not? And we have to make sure that we strengthen it. That's the idea of Awakening Project. What is that? So what we have done is we've conducted 4 surveys. The first survey conducted was on the importance of madrasa, mimbar, and family unit. The second survey was conducted on Khoja Shashnashi identity. The third survey was the role of the members today. And the fourth survey, which has just recently come out, is on our family life. So what we do is we study the survey and we make sure that we analyze it in the right way, considering the biases and all sorts of things put into that, and then we analyze it and we come to certain conclusions. And 2 serious impacts that have come out of these surveys and data gathering and seminars is the weakening of our enduring foundation, madrasa, mimbar, and family. And the second is the losing of our sense of Khojashi Ashnashi identity. So today's talk is integrating family with madrasa and mimbar to build family strength. And what I want to do is to first just give you some idea. When we decided to think that these 3 institutions are the core foundations of our community, we wanted to make sure, were we right in thinking like that? Or is thinking also the same thinking of the community? So the first survey that we did was to ask the community, do they consider family unit, madrasa, and mimbar core foundations of community? 88% say yes. So they also believe that these are the core foundations. If they become weak, we have big issues in our community. The second question we asked, are these foundations, family unit, mimbar, and madrasa, sufficiently overcome the challenges that we are facing today? 78% said no, they are not sufficiently equipped to face the challenges of our time. The other question we asked was, do you find a conflict between your Khojashi Ashnashi Muslim religious values and the influence of modern Western culture? 1/3 of them say yes. We do find that we have a conflict. We need to ask why. We need an explanation. Why is it that there is a conflict? So when we analyze that, as I said, 1 in 3 of us are facing this conflict. And with this percentage, what we found was this. Will this percentage drop in the face of increased moral and technological challenges? This is our issue that we need to deal with. And how are we going to overcome and reduce that particular conflict? That is the work that we are doing at this moment in time. The other thing that we found very interesting in the survey was this, that 21 to 30 years of age group, a notable minority, do not consider community language and interaction with community members to be important. This is the particular range, 21 to 30. And we may see a rising percentage in this group that feels less connected to their own community. And what is really worrying to see is that few people consider their Islamic beliefs to be least important. There is a creeping trend of secularity within our religious community. Now that's a very worrying phenomenon that is creeping in our community. What are we going to do about this? When we talked about the member, when we asked about the member, look at the percentages we are getting. Does the member meet your spiritual needs? Does the member give you solutions to solve today's moral and social problems? 43.9% says it's not fulfilling the spiritual needs. And about solving our current problems, 62.1% not addressing the social and moral problems. Now this, of course, is cause for concern. And obviously we need to look at our methodology again to make sure that these are correct figures. But if they are correct figures, then we have to do something about it. Then there is the challenge of spiritual education. Let me just go through that. At this moment in time, the education that is given to our children up to university is memory-led. You know what memory-led is? It's just passing exams. Basically, you pass your exams there, then you go on to secondary education, you pass your exams, you go on to university education. So if you are very bright, your memory is very good, you cram all the data and the information, you pass your exam and you get your certificate. That's a memory-led. This is the university education that I received, a memory-led basically. But today's world is not looking for memory-led education or memory-led children. Our children would have to have an intelligence-led, sufficiently bred education. Our child must, or a young man must have a problem-solving capacity. He must have an adjusting capacity. He must have a decision-making capacity. A problem-solving capacity means કે આજે ગુજરાતી થોડુંક જણું સાંભળો છો તો સમજો છો. આજે તમારા ખોરા ઉપર સાપ આવે અને તમે એમ જ કહેતા હો કે આ સાપ કેમ મારા જ ખોરા ઉપર આવ્યો છે, કેમ મારા જ ખોરા ઉપર આવ્યો છે, સામાન્ય મારા જ ખોરા ઉપર આવ્યો, તો સાપ શું કરશે? ડંખ મારશે ને, પોઈઝન થઈ જશો અને તમે ગુજરી જશો, બરાબર કે નહીં? પ્રોબ્લેમ સોલ્વિંગ કેપેસિટી મીન્સ કે તમારા ખોરા ઉપર સાપ આવે એટલે તમે સાપને ઉપાડીને ભગાવી દો. Problem came, problem solved. So you guys, the young people and all of us must have that capacity in our education. Secondly is adjusting capacity. ઓહો આજે કેમ વરસાદ આવ્યો, આજે કેમ બહુ તડકો આવ્યો, આજે કેમ આટલું સ્નો આવી ગયો, તડકો આવ્યો, વરસાદ આવ્યો હોય તો અમરેલા લઈને બહાર નીકળી જાઓ, બહુ ઠંડી આવી હોય તો 2-3 સ્વેટર પહેરી લ્યો, અને બહુ ગરમી હોય તો કપડા ઉતાર બધા નહીં થોડા અને પાછું જાઓ. So you have to adjust. Life is full of thorns. All you have to do is to adjust yourself. This is adjusting capacity. If our children, if our youth doesn't have problem solving capacity or adjusting capacity, they have a huge problem. The entrepreneurs won't accept them, the corporates won't accept them, the establishment won't accept them. The last is decision making capacity. આપણી પાસે આપણે 10 જણાને પૂછવા જાશું આજે હું શું કરું, 10 જણાને પૂછો તો 10 જવાબો મળશે, બરાબર ને? So you can't even decide. Husband and wife હોય 20 વર્ષ સુધી પરણીને બેઠા હોય તો દરરોજ સવારના વાઇફ આવીને હસબન્ડને પૂછશે આજે કયું શાક બનાવું, એ જગદંબા, the queen of the kitchen. આ ભાઈને ચણાનું શાક ગમે છે, બટેટાનું શાક ગમે છે, દર વખતે બહુ ગમતું હોય તો બનાવી નાખે, પણ દરરોજ સવારના આવીને ભાઈ પૂછશે આજે કયું શાક બનાવું. You see, decision making capacity. Now, if you don't have those 3 capacities, what will happen to our young man? He will be suffering. Although he may have 1-1 or 2-1, whatever you want to call it, from there, if he fails that, behind that, is there another system that we need? We have memory-led, we have intelligence-led. Behind that, do we need another system? Come on. Do we need another system? Yeah? No? Well, okay. Fair enough, but that's the same sort of, but we need another level there. What am I looking for?
Emotional intelligence or spiritual?
Spiritual. We need a moral system behind it. And whose job it is to provide that moral system to our kids? Do you think the world will provide the moral to our kids? They will provide us with science and technology, but they are not going to provide us with the morality that we need to impart to our kids. Who is going to do that? The family and the madrasa. They will have to provide that system behind it. Our children in our community, Khoja Shia International Muslim community, today are losing the art of doing a small conversation. Do you understand that? Small conversation? When our boys meet another boy, we cannot continue with small conversation. The reason is that our engagement with others is minimizing all the time. As a community, we must engage more with outside. And our children must engage more with outside to build that art of small conversation. Did you understand that? Okay. So when UCLA conducted a research, spirituality in higher education, look at the percentages, 74%, 74%, 81%, 69%. Students, teachers, lecturers, all of them are thinking of spiritual education. Because they are all now worried that spirituality is missing. The point that we need to understand is what sort of spirituality are they talking about? It's mainly spirituality without God. So when our children also attend this type of spirituality and this type of emotional lectures and all that, what we call emotional intelligence and all that, it's basically geared towards a concept without God. And we have to be very careful that when our children are also devoid of spiritual experiences within the community, within the family, what happens is they will seek spirituality here, but that spirituality will be without God. So the church, for us, this is the biggest challenge, is learning spirituality in the madrasa classroom enough for our children. If you just teach akhlaq on the blackboard, without any spiritual experiences, the child is not going to imbibe spirituality. So we have to create our spiritual experiences within our community, within our family lives, and we have to take our children to where they can get the spiritual experiences. Does it make sense? Today, our community child attends. This is what's happening to our Khoja Shia. Well-resourced secular school in our community, they are very well-resourced secular school in Dar es Salaam, for example, versus less important but adequately covered madrasa. Well-resourced community school versus some Islamic subjects taught here and there in the school. Well-resourced community school versus evening madrasa with mediocre resources. Well-resourced secular school versus weekend madrasa with voluntary resources. What message are we giving to our children? Which is important? Secular school is more important in his mind than madrasa. When he hasn't done secular homework, the parents will be much more gambirta batar se. Kara taru lesson nahi karta mutane nahi le jao. But Quran will lesson has a kale karna aaj apan pare jao. So you see, we are giving mixed messages all the time to our children. And then at the head of all this is the modern university, totally secular and hence non-religious in its approach to knowledge. This is the mindset that we give to our children. And as a result, what happens is that we see increasingly they have skillfully developed different type of behavior to suit different social situations. Dual life disposition. Imam Bada Maja said, to behavior judu ase, Ghare also to behavior judu ase, University Maja said to behavior judu ase. Do you understand Gujarati, Janin?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to mix it with Gujarati a little bit. If you don't understand, just raise your hand and I'll translate it. But what we want to see a young man well versed in Islam at the same time providing him or her with education and skills to succeed. This is our effort. Now, one of the questions we asked was how important on a scale 1 to 5 is marrying early and having a big family. Look at the analysis we've come up with. Majority, it's less important to marry early. This is happening to the kids now, young people. Majority, less important to have a family of 4 or more. So there's a drastic shift in the marital culture now. That is going to have impact on our own demographics. Young people prioritize careers and financial security before marriage now. Husband and wife are working, and therefore there's little time for large family. And demands of today's means unaffordability to have 4 or more children. Does your gut feeling agree with that? Or not? Then we have this rise in divorces. This is from a Jamaat resource. Look at this one. Divorce cases from a report of a large Jamaat. I can't name the Jamaat, by the way. This is the January 2011 to December, 25 cases of matrimonial disputes, 9 leading to divorce. 36% did end up being divorced. That's not very good for a small community of ours. Having divorces, 25, that means almost 2 a month. Is this the trend we see? Our program, our family, our community, we don't have demographics, we don't have statistics. So I've started the statistics things now, and I'm getting all these things. But we don't really keep statistics. Our Jamaats don't, unfortunately. And what are we going to do about it if this is the trend? What are the rising divorces? I mean, what are the causes of matrimonial? This is from the report, by the way. Look at this. If engagement lasts 2 to 3 years, dispute happens within 4 to 6 months of marriage. In-law cause of trouble can be a source of prevention. That means that in-laws haji apna problem kara. But look at this last bit. Promiscuity amongst husband and wives. This is from a report. Drunkenness leading to abuse and violence. Internet chat, Facebook, mobile, easy connection with opposite, leading to suspicious between spouses, and then that goes to the matrimonial. So something to think about what's happening. Now I haven't taken that from air, have I? Does it say here air? What does it say there? From? Jamaat resource. That means official. We need to know about this thing. Again, from Jamaat, most cases of marital breakdown are in the first 5 years of marriage with children. But look at this trend. Increasing number of young divorcees with children remain single for years and face hardships alone. Because we don't have any facilities to look after in issues like that. So then the question I asked was, how important on a scale 1 to 5 is watching TV, browsing the internet as opposed to spending time with family members and elders? Look at the analysis. So this is the analysis. Reasonable percentage likes to watch TV more, they consider watching TV more important than time with family and elders. This is a trend in our community now. Shows technology plays a role in our lives. So what does this mean to us? Look, these are the 3 conclusions that we have come up with. Either family members accepting of these trends, or family members value their own time more. ये करतो है यानी प्राइवेट स्पेस आपी दियो एनो मोबाइल आपी दियो एनो लैपटॉप आपी दियो एनो रूम में अमे हमारा टेलीविजन लाउंज ये एनु जे काम करतो ये करे वो हमारो हमें काम करे. So they are accepting of our own private space, imagine, within a traditional family. Or we are seeing a real conflict between traditional family values and a modern technological household. Do you know what that means? Look at that finding. We are now entering into an age of living together as individual members as opposed to living together as family members. So we are living as family, but really working out as individuals rather than families. That's hurting us as a community as well. This is a demographic survey. Look at the percentage below 18, 21%. So we have a growing young population, but we have a growing 65 plus population as well. I predict in 20 years' time, this population will be somewhere here, 18.7. Because they are living longer. Malik and Moth hamra kaam ochu kari nahi karo. So, and pachi, we will have, now who's going to look after these seniors? If a family breakdown is there, traditional family values are cutting out, seniors will have a huge problem. Let's sort something out, seniors. They're here. Something to pick up from there. Average age is 35, 55% are below 34. Average number of children only 1.7. So my father was 6. I am 3. This suggests 1.7. And we are only 90,000 in the world. So in 50 years, how many of us will be here? 50,000. Then who's going to look after our community? Who's going to look after our Jamaat? Who's going to look after all these 100 centers in the world? And male to female split at the moment is nearly equal. That's a very interesting, not married. 52% male and 29% female between 25 to 34. That's a cause for concern. But look at this one. 18% male and 16% female between 35 and 44. Why can't we do something and set things up to get these guys married? Community doesn't have as active a process as it should. So from demographic skills, if you look at languages, 96% of us speak English, but it's all dropping now. 76% speak Gujarati, 62% speak Kutchi, 64% speak Urdu. Now this is going down, by the way. It used to be 100% Gujarati at one time. Qualification-wise, the thing to worry about is 30.8% have no qualification. Now that's worrying as well. Why? Why are we not sending our children to have qualifications? Employment. 14.6% of male between this are not employed. Of these, 62% are aged between 25 and 54. Because they live in the West, they don't see the full impact. The government supports them. But that's not a very healthy situation, is it? Not for a community like ours, a rich community. So, we asked a further question. Do you agree that we as a community still need to prioritize further these core foundations in order to provide spiritually stable environment for our children and the future generation to come? Is there any surprise? 94% said yes. No surprise. I just showed you the trend. So all of us have a gut feeling that there's something not right and we need to do something about it. So how can we overcome the challenges? Ever since we set up a community of ours, if you look at historically, we have a history of 160 years as a community. And we have a history in Islam of 700 years. So when we look at our own community history, if you study the constitutions of our Jamaats, which are about 100 constitutions, and if you find out what are our core values, these are our core values. Constitutionally we have put it in our Jamaat constitution. That we must have taqwa, a godly value. That we must have integrity as a community. That we must do things with wisdom. That we must have compassion and caring for brothers who are not well off. And we must be just and fair to all our members and others. These are our core values. I'm not saying that these core values I'm not saying that we are okay with this at the moment. I'm not saying that we function like that, but I'm saying that we idealize it in our constitution. We need to work at these core values to make sure that this becomes a functional core values in our communities throughout the world. Then we can move forward from a thick community to a reasonable community we want to be. What I mean by thick community is a wall around us, that we don't allow others to come in, we don't allow other cultures to come in. No, we need to move away from that thick-walled community to a reasonable position. But how are we going to move? What is the vehicle? The vehicle is the core values. We must subscribe to these values as a community. So what should be our mindset? Now I'm working through the models. All right, then I'll open it up for discussion. Have I got time? I'm fine. So what should be our mindset? Our mindset is to instill our core values in every child. That should be our mindset from the time in the mother's womb. That means you start building structures from the moment the conception occurs. In other words, you have to think that a child born today in 2017, at the age of 21 that he or she reaches, what sort of child or what sort of a young man should we have when he is at 21 years of age? If we can think like that, then we will have structures to produce a young man or woman like that. But we have to start from there. That means a mother's role becomes an important role to play in the child's development. That's the mindset that I am looking for. We are in Awakening Project. The second thing is that we have to have a buy-in from who, by the way? If I do all these things and you just go away at home and don't support these ideas, then are we going to move forward? So where am I going to get a buy-in from? From who? From you. You have got to give me the buy-in. You should say to me through your leaders, look, leaders, let's sit down together. Community, let's sit down together. And let's work through this. You have got to agitate in the Jamaat. You've got to support your leadership because they are doing their best with the limited resources. But if we all work together, we can achieve so much and much more. So that's what we are looking for, a buy-in from you. And then we have to identify the leverage factors. What leverage factors means that we do a little bit of, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We had our Jamaat for 160 years, so they've done us a favor and they've got strengths. But what we're looking for is to identify a factor where you introduce a little bit of a change and it gives us a big outcome. So we are looking at those type of leverages. And when we look at those type of leverages, we find these are the three leverages that we can have. Institution of family, we introduce change here, we get a huge outcome. We introduce change here, we get a good outcome. We introduce good change here, we get a good outcome. So these are the three institutions we are focusing on. So how are we going to microscope this enduring institution? So what we do is we identify a working vision principle first. Then we establish a guideline content in the light of challenges. And then we introduce the necessary structural change and inspire towards what we can achieve in terms of family, in terms of madrasa, in terms of member. So this is how we go about microscoping and achieving a result. So step one is identifying a working principle. I'll just go through it very quickly. This is the working principle we are working with. This is from Nahjul Balagha. The value of each person lies in the good he does, Imam Ali alayhi salam. There was a Palestinian professor. He wanted to have an education forum in Middle East. And he was looking for a principle. So he went to Harvard Library and looked at all the philosophers. One day he went there, he was a Christian. One day he went and picked up the book and he saw this. The value of each person lies in the good he does. You know which book he picked? What's it name? Nahjul Balagha. He was addressing the conference in Tehran University, in front of all the Shia professors. He said, you've got a personality like that, and I don't see the way this particular book has to be advertised by you as Shia scholars. And he said, this is a principle that appealed to me so much. And you know the rationale why it appealed to him so much? Because the meaning of Yusan, which constitutes the worth of a person, how well a person does in knowledge and skills, how pleasing the person does, aesthetic dimension, how good this person is in the community from the experience of the community, how much one gives of oneself to others, how respectful of people and ideas the person is. This all constitutes worth of the person. That's a beautiful principle that we can adopt as well. From Nahjul Balagha, from Imam Ali alayhi salam, he's our first Imam. Step two is to establish guideline content. I'm not going to go through that because we're working towards that. By the way, I would like you to, if you don't mind, and you would help us greatly, if you just Google my name, Sibtain Panjwani. I will come Awakening Project, you click that, and then please go to the link of the survey on family life and try and fill it out. It will help us to see the quality of family life that we have in the community, and then we can share the results with you and see what we can do about it. But without your help, I can't do this. I need your help. So go into that and do some, please fill in the survey if you can. Thanks. And then see, this is how we sort of prepare guidelines and all that. I'm just giving you an idea as to how we move things. And lastly, create a dynamic structure. Now look, I'm just going to give two and then I'll stop. What we do is we look at the common Jamaat hierarchy. There are two main ones which are two. One is a vertical hierarchy and one is a horizontal hierarchy. When a Jamaat is of a size of say 1,000 members, we see a vertical hierarchy function. When a Jamaat is only say 100 members, then poor president has to open the madrasa, he has to open the imambara, he has to do the faqih, everything. President has to do everything. Poor guy, once he sits in that chair, he doesn't come out. That's his, that's a small Jamaat. Large Jamaat have got that vertical hierarchy. So we've studied the hierarchy of the Jamaats. So what we have found that this units, family unit, member and madrasa, are interconnected. They have a relationship. These three should not be working individually. Family unit doing itself, whatever. Well, first of all, we don't even have family representation. We should have family representation in the executive. Secondly, madrasa is doing their own, it's given an autonomy. And then the member has its own way of working. Whereas if we have challenges in our community, these three institutions will be working together to overcome the challenges. Madrasa should be in full force. Family should be in full force. Making sure that our children, whatever suffering they're going through, are removed. How are we going to do that? Yeah, this is what I mean by interlocking priority. Issues such as marriage, drug, education, skill, health can be dealt by all three as directed by the community or executive. These three institutions should be working in unison, singing from the same song sheet. Not member doing something and madrasa doing something else, and family unit doesn't even care because they think the community will do everything for them. That's why the community is there for. But community is families and family is community. Without families, there's no community. So a possible dynamic effective structure would be like that. That you have a representation of madrasa, representation of family unit, representation of members, forming a joint board within the executive, not outside of executive, almost permanently residing in the executive, so we get continuity. Not that the new president comes and then he decides he wants to do this, that and other things. No. This board is a continuation of whatever we have embarked upon and just goes through like a civil servant. So this board is a very important structural change within the executive. So the expertise will be delivered by the family member in madrasa, and there should be really infrastructurally, materially, morally and financially supported by who? Executive committee. But ultimately by whom? Community. If these guys are not supported fully by this, can they deliver? They can't deliver. And that's where most of our problems lie. We pass resolutions after resolution after resolution, and they lie in the dustbin of history. I can tell you, when you open the cupboard of Jamaat's resolution, you'll see so many of them not implemented. Because who is going to implement? They don't have infrastructure. They don't have the right resources. They can't call upon resources and expertise because they don't give them. And it's not their fault because this guy here, community, doesn't participate. Even in the AGM, how many people attend to question the leadership? Out of 500 members, only 5 attend. Out of 1,500 members, man 50 house. For Barazama, oh, I'm sorry, Orlando Baraza is very good, I must say. They are very constructive. And I haven't seen a Baraza which is so constructive. they should be given A+. But other barazas, well, I don't know. Now, last thing. This is what we can achieve if we inspire ourselves. Open community university. This is a developing concept. Madrasa as a base for open community university. And upon that, we build all these things. Education for youth, education for children, education for family, skilling, reskilling for the adults. If we have all the data of unemployment, education backwardness, all that, we can deal with it. If we become an educated community, we are a community which will have success. Remove education, we are not a successful community. Our children, our youth must be capable youth, must have problem-solving capacity, must have adjusting capacity, must have decisional capacity, with a fantastic moral background and proper iman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can I slaughter you first?
Sorry?
Can I slaughter you first?
Yeah. Zabah kya banana? Nice, right? Yeah, go on.
I really enjoyed your presentation the last 2-3 days, but my question that I get from the barazas here, that your awakening project is based on encouraging Khojaism, and on the contrary, what you're doing and what I've heard the last 2 days, you're raising the bar of spirituality within the community, and that's your goal. I can see that.
Yes. Khoja is our identity.
Right. So, would you mind to give us a little bit of the difference between heritage and identity a little bit, so that people understand what you're trying to do? I really appreciate that.
Listen, identity is who you are. Who you are is very important. Aaj apna badana moda usarkha hoy, so would we be able to recognize each other? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has given us diversity and given identity. Each community has its own identity. You have your own background. Now, so identity from that point, where is this guy? The identity from that point of view is who you are. And so who you are comes from where? From your history, from your past experiences, as a member of the family, as a community, as a culture, as a country. So all that makes you who you are. We as a community have a history of 160 years. As a community, Khoja, Shia, Ishnashi community. So we have that part of heritage that have allowed us to survive until today with good values. So I'm not saying, when you say Khojaism, in my notion there is no Khojaism the way you have understood it. We are a religious community and we are going towards more and more religiosity, not more and more Khojaism. That's not our values. Our core values are religious values. But we have a heritage. And if we have a heritage which has served us well, but we have understood and awakened to the fact that we are Shia, internationally lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and we will always remain lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, then we as a community in the 21st century, how are we going to move forward when we have a history of community like that? Some good strength. Now you just don't throw the water, what's that expression? Baby with the bath water. This community has served me well. Today I'm able to do some research of this nature and share with you. And my notion of Khoja Shia Ishnawi community is not a very restrictive notion. I want to open it up. Because otherwise we as a community will not survive. But how are we going to open up and how are we going to carry the community forward? We just cannot discard our heritage. And we cannot just say, well, forget our heritage, then we are a lost people. Today the crisis, the biggest crisis in the world in the 21st century is identity crisis. You can dress up smartly as an American and have an accent of American. But even the American will ask you, who are you? You're not an American. Where do you come from? At least have a notion, an idea that what your heritage is and what sacrifices in the name of religion our grandparents made, just like Iraqis and just like Iranis and just like Lebanese. They spilled blood for the cause of Islam. Our community have done the same so that we could remain and maintain. Lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That's the notion that I am. Not Khojaism. This is a very blanketed. People who don't look beyond their noses consider. When they hear me, I'm sure I don't. Have I given you that impression I'm a Khojai? Have I? But I'm proud of the fact that I belong to this community. And you should be as well. What's wrong with that? Pride in the sense, in the right way. Not in an arrogant way. Because Allah doesn't like you to be arrogant. Taqwa is a judge for us. Now, if our membership is restrictive and all that, it is not beyond our wits not to go beyond what we are, but we have to work together on it.
So a follow-up question is that can you expound on your idea of inclusive functional structure? What do you mean by that? In your first day you talked about inclusive functional structure. Because we are a Khoja community, but we can include others.
Yes. Okay, my view is like this. My view is if a non-Khoja comes to our community, if he sits with us, eats with us, walks with us, then he can become part of us. But the foundational community is still Khoja community. We're not discriminating like that. We shouldn't be discriminating. We have core values like that. We have to educate our community. And we should have engagement with other communities, Lebanese, Iraqis, Iranis, they are also Shia communities. We can work together to form a Shia base on the top, and then a Muslim base on the top, and a human base on the top. And Bar Imam comes, at least we can give that. But let's educate our own community as to who they are first, because our young man is devoid of all that. And as a consequence of that, we have an issue. Because he also suffers identity crisis. Because when he's asked, where do you come from? Doesn't know. Doesn't know. Okay, I'm going to go into this presentation now. There's no follow-up now, is there? Are you satisfied?
Very good.
All right. Now, don't revolutionize the Khoja community by what I've said. It remains here. Okay. Alaikum salam.
તમે આ 2011 થી કરો છો. It's been a while, right? Very interesting data. બહુ ઘણા બધા concepts છે આમાં. Have you worked or are you considering working with a particular Jamaat? Okay, આ બધા concepts છે. હવે તમારી community સાથે આપણે tailor કરે કે તમારી community માં કયા issues છે અને પછી specific steps. કારણ કે અહીંયા concepts છે, right? But there is no specific steps. કે okay, આ issues આપણે જોઈતા છે. આ concepts છે આપણે અહીંયા પહોંચ્યું છે. What can we do A, B, C, D so that we can get to the level we need to get for your respective Jamaat? And I'm sure you need to tailor that for each and every Jamaat. Orlando Wara, for example, તમને invite કર્યા છે અહીંયા. 4 દિવસ તમે present કરો છો. Now that you have presented all this stuff, are there any specific plans to work maybe with this Jamaat and say, okay, these are the issues of your community. Let's do this to solve these issues.
What a wonderful suggestion you're making. Trouble is that I have been working for 4 years, right? In the 4th year, I have been able. It's good luck of Inayat Bhai that he met me in all the places in Kabristan for 2 minutes, and then he said, "Sibtain Bhai, can I invite you to Orlando?" Now he's a very enlightened man, forward-looking man. You got a very good president. So he invited me, and this is the first Jamaat, I'm saying, first good Jamaat who has programmed like this in a more sort of encouraging way. So I would be delighted to work on a pilot project with a specific Jamaat initially to see how far we can go to implement these things and also understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of the modules that we want to produce. So yeah, I'm looking for a Jamaat to say, yeah, we're happy to work with you. I had a lot of difficulty. It's a lonely journey when you start work like that. But it needed to be done. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, I'll tell you one thing, He opens the door in His own ways. And this is how I have reached so far. And I'm hoping that I'll be going to Nasimco conference, Nasimco symposium they've invited me as well to present some of these things. So now the institution are now also encouraged to look at what I have got and shared their thought processes with me, and we can all work together. But Orlando could be a very good basis. Thank you very much. A very good, a very practical suggestion that you have, very positive way of looking at it. And a Gujarati madam boila, mashallah, it's such a fantastic thing when you hear. Uju, that's how it should. But what's wrong with it? Bolo Gujarati madam. I in Awakening Project, 2 languages are acceptable: English and Gujarati. कोई फारसी and Arabic में नहीं बोलता because Arabic, but it's true. Yeah,
The survey you did was from just one Jamaat or a couple of them?
No, the report was from one Jamaat.
Do you think that the statistics will change if you do a number of Jamaats to get a better sampling?
Well, if you look at the survey, the global survey, that ties in with a lot of things that they themselves are reporting. So, for example, loss of spirituality, mimbar na problemo, family na issues, social media no nothing. I'm supposed to put social media as well, how impactful that is. I forgot to put that. Social media, how that is impacting the family and divorces. So, our survey is also tying in now with what the Jamaats are now facing. Higher divorces and all that. And the cause of divorces is also relating to our survey as well. Of course, we need to look at the representative samples and biases and all that. Absolutely, methodology as well. But at least we have a sense now as to where the community is going, or the trends in the community.
But you need all the 3 to work together to solve the issue.
Oh yes, and at the moment, our community leadership's mindset is not towards that. They are looking at madrasa syllabuses and all that, granted. But the way I'm looking at it is infrastructurally, structurally, functionally. That Maulana Sahib, when he is attending to our community, he must understand what the challenges are within our community, both internal and external. Madrasa teachers must be okay with the parents. And parents' representation, how are we going to get the parents' representation into the board? Well, how do we get parental representation in the school? Well, in the initial place, we will have to choose people to become the parents' representative, so that parents' issues, family issues, are debated properly in the board, and then at the executive level as well. So that all those trends that I talked about, the single family and all that, can then be staring in their face that these are issues, let's deal with it. And we may have to change the way we work as well, by the way. We cannot rely upon voluntarism all the time. It's very, very difficult now in 21st century to rely upon voluntarism. So we have to create an infrastructure which is paid. And if we have a paid infrastructure, that means the economy will also be advantageous for the Jamaat. Because if we create a paid employment within the Jamaat, the money circulates within the Jamaat. So we are also then skilling particularly the female side. Because we can skill, because that's the resource we have. And they can become the infrastructural element in the new way of thinking. To reskill our mothers and sisters, to do the Jamaat work, but in a fantastic way. So we become a 24-hour center, not just 2-hour center every day. 24-hour center, counseling, all that. But that's the concept. But this concept itself is a very, very workable concept. It is in big Jamaats. Dar es Salaam, Toronto, including Orlando now, because Orlando is 1,500. You can develop. This is a beautiful concept if Orlando just, makes a serious attempt to it. Because it can serve the youth. Induction courses, skills training, modular learning, career planning, children, religious education, secular education, special coaching, language classes, family, premarital, pregnant moms, young mothers, young and recently married couples, adult, reskilling, all this. Imagine vibrancy in the community. We will have a sense of belonging to the community. We would not see just Muharram and Ramzan only. Of course, they have very important connections with us. But community as a community, a large family looking after each other. In times of trouble as well. I would not, મારા કાન જરાક નાના છે, so તમે જરાક જોસ્તી બોલો. Last night and
Yesterday's program?
yeah, sure. Go on.
However,
Minhaj, right? Minhaj. Yeah, good. Yeah.
my question is, how do we re-engage the youth or young parents or our age group, re-engage them back towards attending the mosque, not only attending the mosque, but these programs whereby, because I've noticed volleyball, for example, other sports activities, paintball, there's a lot of participation. But when we have educational programs, such as this, in other words, how do we re-engage them back towards the mosque?
Mosque, yeah. That's a very good question. Yesterday I had a youth gathering. And one of the questions was almost similar to what Minhaj was saying. But how can we bring our youth back to the community? You know, how can you bring the youth back to the community is a very important challenge. And because it is an important challenge, we have to think through this. We have to think through that why, for example, community is not important to youths. Why community is not a priority for them. So we have to ask the question that are our youths at the age of 21, at the age of 22, at the age of 30, even at the age of 35, are they asking the right question of their life, which we call existential question? If they understand the value of life, they will prioritize life. To understand the value of life, you have to ask the right question. Who am I? Why was I born? What's the purpose of my life? These are existential questions that every young man and woman must ask of itself as a human being. And once I understand who am I, why I was born, what's the purpose of life, what's the guidance that I need to have, where is the ultimate destination? When you start to think like that, you will start to begin to prioritize in your life, and one of the priorities you'll come to is social. And within social, family becomes important and community becomes important. But if our young man doesn't even bother to ask this existential question because they are not bothered, because they are ground down by a system, educational, economic, political, which doesn't even give them time to ask themselves of these questions, then would you expect them to prioritize their lives? How would their priority work? We call it dignity of the moment. Let's play sports. Let's play volleyball. Let's enjoy ourselves. Yeah, let's muck around. This is not the serious issues that they confront anymore. Young men of our community must be serious and critical about their lives. And they must ask serious questions. Once they understand the value of life that Allah has given them. I told in my first gathering, the 2 important days in your life. You remember that? The first day is the day you were born. Must remember that. That's the most important day in your life, the day you were born. And the second most important day in your life is the day you realize why you were born. How many of us have asked the second question, why we were born? Now, if a young man asks that question, he has a different complexion in his life, a different priorities in his life. But we have to educate our children, our young people, to ask these existential questions. This is the role of mimbar, the role of madrasa, the role of family. That when we are bringing up, we must explain to them that first of all, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given you life. Don't take it for granted. Life will end. 60, 70, 80. So many of us have taken so much wealth in Kabristan. It's the richest place in the world. So much aspirations have gone down to the cover. Never been expressed. All this potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given each one of us. to be the best in the world. Those potentials are buried in Qabristan today. Each one of you have a role to play, believe me. Each one of you. Don't take it negatively. Each one of you is a positive member of human society. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers you important, that's why He's given you birth. And we negatively take it, why should we prioritize? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, today in the Fajr I gave an example. Be attentive to your nafs. Be attentive. Oh, believers. Alaykum anfusakum. Be attentive, observe your nafs. See where you're going. Your destination is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, to your answer, priority. If your priority is to play volleyball, then that's your priority. If your priority is to go and do hookah, that's your priority. But if your priority is to go and build humanity, that's your priority. I've given you a very lengthy, I'm sorry, but I had to give you a preamble of that nature so that you understand how important each one of you is. Not only to each one of you, to each of you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't require your importance. It's for your own good. Yeah.
Good.
Alaikum.
This core, the whole initial issue, right, should it not be the family first before we come to the member and the madrasa?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, yes. But I have given, I am much more integrationalist like that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but family, it has to start from them.
It starts from the family.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
And what do you do when the family is fine?
Yeah.
Okay, but then you have the member, all right, and what you have the old school, all right, educating the new generation. Then what do we do?
Yeah, you see, it's all a process of education. You know, what comes first, chicken or egg? It's really like that now, because we look at the cards we are dealt with. So, you know, if a family is not educated to a level that they can educate their children, then we have to educate the family first. So whose role is that? Member. So what I have decided, that look, three of the institutions have to work together. So three institutions have understood that this is our priority, that family education matters. In that case, member, madrasa and family all work together for family education, for parental education. You know this open community university? This is where education is going to be given to the community as a whole, in all its demographics. So, but you are right in a way, the family has to be the first. But when you have been given a card that is existing now, with up and down family issues, with madrasa infrastructure lacking in many ways, and members' role, you saw the percentages, then you have to look at all these three institutions together. Does it make sense that we should look at these three institutions together? Because there are so meaningful to our lives, aren't there? Three institutions.
And I think I would like to piggyback on Shabibai's question. I think the parenting challenge that has not been addressed in your presentation, maybe I missed it, was the generation gap. I think we are first generation immigrants to this country, and the parenting style is so different that there is a gap. You know, how do you parent children? Middle-aged parenting, for example, has become difficult. How do you pass on the values when the style, the way our children are growing up in this country is so different from the way we were raised? And there's no education per se that helps us or equips us as parents. So parents are at a loss. And I think maybe I'm answering my own question. Maybe the member has to do that. But now member has to cater to three different generations, and so it doesn't. It can't do it all.
No, that's absolutely a very good point that you have raised. You know, I did not have time to go into the details in 60 minutes or 45. It will become too boring otherwise. What I've given you is the outline structure as to which institution we must concentrate on. But when we come to making member guidelines, for example, then we have to take details into consideration. Like for example, we have these 3 generations now existing, that we have lack of education in that particular part of the generation. And in this part of generation, there is not much of a motivation. So all that has to be considered when we develop guidelines. So in the guidelines, more of the detailed work is being done. So at the moment, I did not share any guidelines. Of course, member guidelines will come soon, because we have got a lot of data now. So then the family guidelines will come, in which we will then begin to address the issues that you are raising. So yes, but this wasn't the forum. Yeah, we've got 5 minutes now, so, if you want to close, we can close, or if you have any questions.